The trade winds are shifting. Will Trump and China finally strike a deal, or is it back to square one? Meanwhile, the U.S. is seeing great planting progress with rains boosting crops, while Europe faces dry patches. And looking ahead, could the Black Sea region see peace, or will droughts threaten crops? Plus, the U.S. EPA's big decision on ethanol and biodiesel, and a major update on fund positions in Paris. I'm Johanna Bota, and with us today to discuss all the latest developments, it's StoneX's VP of Clearing and Execution Sales, Bertrand Oesterle. Hello, Bertrand.
Morning.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with the million or billion-dollar question. Deal or no deal? Who's going to cave in first?
Well, we still don't have a decision. So we've been having about a week and a half of talks from Trump saying a deal is coming. It's coming in the next 3 to 4 weeks. And it's on the table, it's being discussed, but on the other side, China is basically not wanting to lose face and is saying there is no discussion, there is no tariff break. What has been interesting is that China has been trying to be strong by saying we don't need US soybean. Basically, the Brazilians are harvesting, they are about to flood the market. We don't need the US on soybean. So the door is still shut. But there's been some movement. The US administration has been talking of going from 145% to 50 to 65. We knew that already last week. The Chinese have said that on some products, they may go away from the 125% and waive it. So we still don't know. And I think that the Trump administration is a bit frustrated and they're trying to shift the focus onto other deals, and they're talking about 18 imminent deals coming.
But nothing's concrete yet, right? So there's still a lot of uncertainty in the tariff realm. So how about weather patterns? Because main exporting regions are currently going through key crop season stage. So what's happening there?
Yes, it's been quite interesting. So before we looked at the weather, we had a very intense few days because we were going into first notice, especially in US markets. So clients have been very focused on getting rid of their longs in order not to be tendered or rolling the positions. And once that was done, it felt like we all had a breath of fresh air and going, what's next? What are we looking at? Yeah. And the obvious element has been weather, and there's been a lot going on weather-wise. So in the US, we've had 7 days of decent rain. There's 7 days of rain coming. And that has changed the picture in the US dramatically. So the winter wheat conditions have improved 4% in a week, gone from 45 to 49%, good to excellent. In terms of planting, the spring wheat planting in the US is 30% completed. That's beyond the 5-year average of 21%. Then in corn, we've got 24% of that massive 95.3 million acres area already planted. And that's despite the fact that we have had rain and therefore we have had some slow field work in some areas. So 24% already done. It's beyond the 5-year average of 22%. And in soybean, it's very similar. It's currently 18% planted, well beyond the 12% 5-year average. So the specs have been talking to me saying, but we told you there's no problem. So big smile on their face saying, we told you so. And it's back to the old adage of rain makes grain.
Complete opposite in Europe, though. We are seeing dry patches there.
Yes, so Europe has been interesting. I said to Fiona that over the past few weeks, I've put my boots in the ground in France, in Belgium. The fields look pretty good. If we look at rapeseed, for example, rapeseed is looking quite great, and we might get a production that's north of 20 million tons. So we are recovering from last year's disappointing crop, for example. But in terms of wheat, it's been much more patchy. France, for example, is good, 74% good to excellent, but the northern Germans are telling us that it is getting into a crucial phase over the next 2 weeks. It needs to rain. If it doesn't rain, it becomes a problem. And would you believe the UK needs more rain? So, you know...
I don't believe that. Why do you say that?
Yeah, exactly.
We're having such lovely weather right now.
Yes,
Bertrand.
I know. So people are slightly concerned about the May weather pattern that has been forecasted. It's likely to be hot and dry, and for some areas of northern Europe, it could become difficult for wheat. So what we would say is that in many areas we would need regular rain, but some people, especially the bulls who have been trying to build that dryness issue in the US, that's gone, so now trying to focus on Europe, the bulls are saying we still have a problem somewhere that's going to come, because every season we have a bounce at this time of year. So it's trying to find that bullish element, which we can't see in the weather so far on the US or Europe. And then
what about the Black Sea?
So Black Sea has been interesting because we've had talks of cold snap for Russia. So Russia is about 90% good to satisfactory. We're talking of a cold snap. With such good to satisfactory elements or ratings, it needs to be a very significant cold snap to have an effect. Again, like parts of Europe, it needs regular rain. And if we look at Ukraine, Ukraine has had a bit of issues with slow planting for spring crops. It's about 17% behind the normal pace, but the April weather has been pretty good, despite some areas which again need some rain.
And China?
So China has been, for me, the most interesting bit to keep watch on. And I think that might be the element that may comfort some of our bulls. The northern Chinese plains are in drought. 40% of those Chinese northern plains are in drought, and about 1/3 of the farmland there is under severe moisture deficit. So that could have an impact on the wheat production in China. China produces some 130 million tons. If there's a real issue in China, it could be a lot less. And then it could be an element that could come back into the tariffs. If China realizes that it has a problem, it could come onto the table to say, okay, we'll buy US wheat as a gesture when actually they need it. Yeah. So we'll have to monitor all this.
Okay, so what will you be looking forward? What should we be paying attention to?
So there's a few elements. The first one is not so important, but it's going to make headlines and people may react to headlines. It's those talks of, again, Black Sea, Russia, Ukraine, peace talks. As I've said many times over the past few weeks, the industry is very versatile. Over the past 3 years, the industry has basically reorganized itself from a logistics point of view. Whether there's peace or no peace from a grains and oilseed point of view, it's not going to change much, but we could have headlines, and those headlines could make the market react to the downside. Beyond that, we have a
Paris Fund positions.
Yes,
yes,
exactly. You've mentioned quite well. The Paris wheat position is going to be updated today. The funds have been very short for quite some time. They did anticipate the euro move quite well, and now that the weather is looking benign or pretty good, especially in the US and in parts of Europe, those funds are comfortable. We have seen over the past week the September OI booming by about 40,000 lots, December by about 30,000 lots. We expect that the funds have gone short on new crop.
Okay. So what about the US EPA decision? Is there going to be a decision, or is there going to be no decision?
So the EPA has been quite interesting. There's been two elements to the EPA decision. The first one on ethanol, and we had a decision from the EPA quite a while back saying that they would allow E15 on corn to ethanol all year through. Okay. And the Trump administration came back this week saying, oh, we authorize it from the 1st of May. And it's like, but it's already authorized. So it's a confirmation that ethanol is going to go E15 all year through. That's supportive domestic demand for corn. What we're really waiting for still is that EPA decision on biodiesel, so soybean oil to biodiesel. The current mandate is 3.55 billion. The talks are anything from 5 to 7.5. It could be a major move. We tend to think it's going to be more around the 425 mark, but some people are more optimistic, saying it could be 525. We were supposed to have a decision last week. We're a week ahead, still no decision. We're still waiting, and we simply have to watch the headline.
And what about corn?
So what we've been trying to look at once we had that FND out of the way is to look at new crop. So we started last week to look at the spreads, and we've looked more specifically at SEPDEC in Chicago wheat, SEPDEC in Chicago corn, SEPNOV in soybeans, SEPDEC in Paris wheat. All the spreads have been pretty much close to their recent low, and the one that had that has outperformed to the lower side has been Sepdec corn. And that Sepdec corn, which was last week around the -9 area, has touched down to -10.5. Now on the chart of Sepdec corn, we've got a combination of the lower Bollinger Band and the oversold level that was just touched, which generally would mean that we could have a technical bounce. We've had that technical bounce to -8.5, but we haven't reached the -6 that we had seen previously twice over the past few weeks. And that Sepdec movement has created a lot of talk about new crop fundamentals. And that's where looking at the spread has become interesting from how people are trying to position themselves. So some clients have looked at Sepdec as September, you start harvesting all the way to November. So you create more availability of product from September to December, so therefore you've got more stocks in December, so you would buy September, sell December. That's why that 10.5 level was of interest. But then against that, the specs and the bears have said, we've got 95.3 million acres of crop, we've got 24% of that crop already planted, it's rain, it's good conditions, the whole board could be under pressure, that spread is nowhere near its bottom, and that's what we've seen over the past few days. We've seen the entire board in corn being under pressure.
Okay, and then there's one more thing. What's happening on May 12th?
So May 12th, we've got our USDA monthly report, and that one will be interesting simply because it is going to show us the new crop estimates, and it's going to be something for us to analyze.
Thank you so much, Bertrand. That was a lot of information, but we are on it. And thank you for watching. For more financial content like this, please like and subscribe to our channel.